and then he will step aside. Yeah. D. She's closing it. And then, yeah. And then, so Allison, Francesca, Brandon, Breeze, and Samantha. I might have mixed those up, but, and then he'll just kind of step to the side while they speak, which is what he would normally. I think that's a natural thing to do. Yeah.
I double and triple reinforce this as best I can so it doesn't fall. It's a little tenuous.
I've never. It's interesting. I mean, I think it would be like a sign from.
It's double sided. It's strong.
Whoa.
I just want to test it. I just want to make sure.
So like I have it. It's like
Yeah.
one here.
Oh, there's Paul. Wow, he is fast. It's scenarios like that that make me leave. So is this? Do they have this? Or? Okay, great.
The audio, the multbox is directed. What we didn't have is libraries
They're I have TC's Nicole, I have his remarks, but I'm guessing he has.
Do you have an updated ETA on your boss?
10 to 15.
He'll be here in 10 to 15.
At 10:15.
Oh, so on time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're moving now. So this will be
They're coming.
Yes.
Did she arrive? I know she was.
She's yes, she's here.
She's here.
Not in this room. Oh, she's walking over.
Oh, so she'll be here soon.
Sorry,
too.
yeah. And then Francesca is here. Do you know?
I think it's
Yes. That's Francesca, yeah. And then Brandon is. I just saw him.
Oh wait, so there's a few other people that
Samantha.
are speaking.
Do you need to run a show for her?
Yeah, I think if it's here, that's good. But I'll
Sorry,
take
I sent that last night and then got an updated one. But their bios were in what I gave you.
Yeah, because I think we had put them just as attending. And yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Stephanie is like
They're all in the break.
I have an extra one of this if this is helpful.
Yeah, I'll just
I flagged that there would be. Oh, you mean not the people speak?
is for
TC.
yeah. I'll just start there.
We have a number of survivors here. Ted Cruz. Samantha. Hi, Samantha. It's good to see you. Good to see you. My colleague. Nice to meet you.
Because I want to be next. All right. Okay.
Good morning. Good to see you. Welcome. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. We're here, number one, to celebrate a big victory last week in the United States Senate, a victory for fighting the exploitation of women, for fighting the exploitation of teenage girls. We are seeing an explosion of people targeting women and girls. We're seeing it with non-consensual intimate images, both real images of a boyfriend and girlfriend that are in an intimate relationship. They take videos, they take pictures, the relationship goes sour, and one or the other decides to publish to the world images that are private and not meant for anyone to see. And that is a grotesque violation of your privacy. And we're seeing in the modern world a second permutation of that, which is even more invidious and is growing like crazy. And that is the use of artificial intelligence to create deepfakes that, looking at them, appear to be absolutely real, and using them to victimize real people. We've seen the prevalence of deepfake, non-consensual intimate images increase 3,000%. 95% of the deepfake images that are out online are non-consensual intimate images targeting either women or teenage girls. This is a problem that is getting worse and worse and worse. And we all know when it targets someone who's in the headlines, when Taylor Swift is a victim of this, anybody can be a victim of this. But not everyone is a global pop star who has the ability to command the attention of a Taylor Swift. And many of the victims are girls in high school. And we have two of the girls here who I've gotten to know quite well, Elliston Berry and Francesca Monti. Elliston and Francesca are both 15 years old. And they both had almost the exact same thing happen to them at almost the exact same time. Elliston is from Texas, Francesca is from New Jersey. Both of them had classmates in 9th grade. Boys in their class target them and take pictures, innocent pictures from social media. And they went and used an app to create deepfakes that made it appear they were naked pictures of them. And these boys then sent them out to their classmates throughout the school. And both Elliston and Francesca woke up with the horror of realizing that they had been targeted and that all of their classmates thought they were looking at naked pictures of them. They woke up in tears. Listen, it is hard to be a teenager at any time, especially now, the pressures that are on teenagers with social media. It is much, much harder than when we were kids. But to have this kind of violation is fundamentally wrong. And I'm proud we've come together and drafted bipartisan legislation in the Senate. Amy Klobuchar and I teamed up. We drafted this. The legislation, the Take It Down Act, does two things. Number one, it makes it a crime. It makes it a felony to publish non-consensual intimate images. This is wrong. It is criminal. And over again, both Elliston and Francesca were told, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. These people who have violated you can continue with impunity. The Take It Down Act will change that. But secondly, there's another problem, which is these tech platforms historically have been incredibly slow and unresponsive. When these images are up, often they stay up and they stay up and they stay up, and the tech company doesn't do anything about it. I will tell you Elliston's story. The way this issue first came to me, Elliston's a constituent. And she and her mom reached out to our office and said, hey, you're my senator. Can you help us? And the issue made it to my desk. I said, this is horrible. And it's what prompted the idea for this legislation was the concern that was raised by Texans. We drafted this legislation, and several months ago, Elliston and her mom, Anna, were here in D.C. They were in my office. We were talking. We were getting ready for another press conference when we were introducing the bill. And I asked them at the time, I said, so what happened to the images? It had been 9 months since this had happened initially. And they both looked at me in horror and they said, well, nothing. They're still up. Elliston's mom had called Snapchat over and over and over again, had emailed Snapchat over and over and over again, said, take this down. And like a lot of big companies, they just gave her the stiff arm, ignored her, had no interest, did nothing to remedy the situation. I turned to my staff in my office that day. I said, I want you to get the CEO of Snapchat on the phone today. I want those pictures down today. Within an hour, they were pulled down. Now, you know what? It should not take a sitting U.S. senator or a sitting member of Congress to make a phone call to get this garbage down. Every victim should have the right to say, that's me, that's my image, and you do not have my permission to put this garbage out there. And what the Take It Down Act does is it puts a legal obligation on any tech platform that when you are notified by a victim that it is non-consensual intimate images, you must take it down and take it down immediately. That is needed, and that is needed desperately. Now, where this bill is, it has passed the Senate. It has passed the Senate unanimously, 100-0. Amy and I worked on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. Every single Democrat in the Senate supported, every single Republican in the Senate supported it. The bill has now gone over to the House. And we're here today where Maria is leading the fight in the House to get it done there. We're here today, all of us have spoken to House leadership, urging the House to take it up and pass it before the end of the year. You know, there's a process the House has, something called the suspension calendar. And it's a process to take up bills and pass them very quickly on an expedited schedule. If this bill gets a vote in the House, it will pass. The only question is, will it get a vote or not? And so we're here today on behalf of the victims, on behalf of women, on behalf of teenage girls across this country to say, bring this up for a vote, pass it, and put it on the president's desk. We can get it done, and we can get it done before the end of the year. And with that, I want to introduce my partner in crime, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Ted, and thank you for your leadership on this bill. We've worked on it, as he noted, together, every so often, Ted and I disagree on a few issues. It's happened.
I don't know what you're talking
I don't know. We've had a few viral moments, but maybe this will be. And that's because I have really appreciated his willingness to take on these tech issues. It's a pretty lonely thing to do, actually, on a number of fronts. He's been supportive of that work, and it's not an easy thing to do. I remember several hearings in judiciary unrelated to this bill where he was supportive of our work. And I've had ads run against me on this stuff, all kinds of things. It's not easy. So this accomplishment of getting this bill through the Senate was no small thing. I want to thank Representative Salazar. I know Representative Dean on the Democratic side has been working with you on this. And we mostly want to thank those brave souls with Elliston and Francisco, Breeze, Samantha, and the others that are here in the front row who have come forward and have been willing to speak out about their experience, because that takes courage. You know, it's not easy to go and say this happened to me and to tell all the cameras about it, but you're willing to do it to help people that you never will even meet who will be victims of these same crimes unless we get this bill passed. So let's talk about why this issue is too important to ignore. Our bill makes sure to protect the constitutional right to free speech. Ted would make sure that happened, because this isn't about limiting self-expression. It's about protecting Americans' privacy, which is also a right, in this new world of technology and AI. As Ted noted, every one of our Senate colleagues supported this bill, from Bernie Sanders to Rick Scott. That's a broad spectrum, okay? And that's because this is truly an issue for our kids and for the privacy of people throughout this country. An estimated 1 in 12 American adults has been a victim of revenge porn. And by the way, that's how this issue first came to me many years ago. There's another bill that we've also had some success with on the Judiciary Committee. And we know that these privacy violations destroy people's lives. 49% of the victims that I just mentioned were stalked or harassed online by others who saw the image. They simply see the images and then they go on to become a victim of harassment by other people. 13% of victims report difficulty getting a job or getting into school because of the images. And more than half of these victims have experienced suicidal thoughts as a result of this violation. And this harm is not limited to instances where explicit images are shared online. The threat of dissemination alone can be tragic, right? The threat of doing it. So if you know there's a penalty, that people start to realize that this is a crime, then it's a lot harder to make that threat when you can say, hey, this is a crime if you do this. Our FBI director testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee that the Bureau has reported a massive increase in sexual extortion scams, mostly targeting young people. A new study shows that approximately 1 in 7 people are victims of sextortion, and according to the FBI, in 2022 alone, those scams resulted, and this was just stunning for the committee to hear. I'll never forget this moment. Over 20 young people have committed suicide because of this. They don't lie, okay? These are horrific stats. So while we know they're experiencing suicidal thoughts, we have actual deaths that have occurred because of this. The rise of AI-generated deepfakes, where you can't even tell if you're seeing a real person or not, is making these problems worse. One recent study showed 96% of deepfakes are sexually explicit and feature women who did not consent to the creation of this content. I think about Molly from Minnesota, who was shocked to discover a close family friend had created pornographic deepfake images and videos of her and over 80 other women he knew from photos he took from family events. To this day, she knows those images are still out there. Elliston from Senator Cruz's home state, who was only 14 when a classmate used AI to generate new deepfake photos of her and share them on Snapchat. As her mom said, my daughter's innocence was shattered and her eyes were opened to the reality of how cruel a person can be. This work is about building a future, about taking on the challenges of the new environment we live in and not just pretending it's not happening anymore. Fewer Americans will have their lives turned upside down if we can get this done. Fewer children will have their innocence snatched away from them, and more victims can seek justice that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
Let's get it done in the House.
Amen. Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you for your hard work and your leadership bringing the Senate together to get this accomplished. I now have the great joy of recognizing my friend, Senator Maria Salazar, the great Congresswoman Salazar from the state of Florida, who is leading the fight in the House to get this done, along with Madeline Dean, a Democrat. The two are teamed up together to get this done. And I believe we're going to get it done before the end of the year. That is our objective. And I will say we need to work quickly because since Maria is a member of Congress from Florida, I think in about 12 minutes she'll be a cabinet member joining the Trump administration. So we need to move fast. And with that, Congressman Salazar.
Very much. Thank you. My pleasure. It's my pleasure to be working. Well, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be working with you, Senator Cruz, and with your colleague here. That I love the fact that this is a very bipartisan bill. It's just common sense. And I want to connect with the mothers. You know, I have two children, 24, 25, two daughters. And I can only picture that morning when you wake up and you understand that your child's image and likeness is being used with fake images of them naked, and the embarrassment and the sorrow and the sadness and the desperation. And like you were saying, Senator, that it took Snapchat 8 months to take those pictures down from Elliston, who I know is here. And it's like you said, we don't need to know anyone in the Senate or in the House of Representatives to call and demand from social media to bring those down, because they're a lie. They're not true. So I commit to work very hard in the House. We have a lot of friends there. You do too. And I am sure that with the help of God, that we're going to be able to put this either in suspension or make it a vote, and the Take It Down Act will be the law of the land before the end of the year. Why? Because it has nothing to do with political parties. It has to do with what's common sense, which unfortunately in Washington is the least common of all senses. But we're going to try to be the leaders that the Florida people and the Texas people send us here to be and to represent and to do what's right for our constituents. And nothing can be more right than this. So count on me, and I am sure that starting right now, we're going to put all the effort, energy, and interest in making this law. So thanks again for the opportunity, and thank you very much. And to my Representative Dean, who has been working very closely with us. So thank you for the part. This is the way that we should work in Washington, in a bipartisan fashion. Thank you, Senator.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for your leadership, and we're going to get it done in the House. I'm now going to recognize a young woman I've gotten to know very well over these last few months, Elliston Berry, a Texan who is 15 and who has been really courageous sharing her story. Elliston.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to not only Senator Ted Cruz, but Amy Klobuchar for hearing my story and giving me a voice. I also just want to thank God for turning this awful situation into something good. I mean, that morning when I woke up, it was one of the worst feelings I've ever felt, feeling hopeless and feeling as if my entire innocence was stripped away. I mean, the unknown was so terrifying, and it was so hard to realize that this was my reality that I had to live with. And the student that did this to me got little to no punishment, a Class A misdemeanor, that he is still able to attend school and walk around as if he didn't do anything. And that is one of the hardest pill to swallow, because he chose my fate and he is walking around. His record will be expunged by 18. It is so hurtful to know that my community and that my support and that I didn't have anything, because my images were not considered child pornography, even though they were. Although it was made with AI, it was 100% child pornography, because it had the exact same feeling that it would have. this bill, the Take It Down Act, is so healing and so validating because it has heard my voice and all the many people that don't have the opportunity to share their story. Truly, it is such a privilege to be up here and to have these opportunities where I'm able to explain and share my story. And I just want to say another amazing thank you because it is just so healing and so validating to know that my story is relevant. And there are so many cases all around the world. Millions of not only girls, but boys, teenagers, women, children are being harassed, and they are being targeted and victimized, and there's nothing out there that can help them and that can save them. And I remember feeling that hopelessness and just feeling terrified of what the future had to hold. But thanks to this Take It Down Act, we are able to give victims a voice. We are able to protect them, not only the future generations, but the survivors of this AI crime. And I just want to say thank you. And I urge the House to pass this bill immediately to protect so many people because this is a serious matter. Thank you.
Elliston, thank you very much. That was powerful. I now want to recognize another young woman who Francesca Mani, who Elliston and Francesca had virtually the identical thing happen to them within days of each other. One in Texas, one in New Jersey. And it illustrates how this is happening. There's not a state in the country where this isn't happening, where people aren't being victimized. And I will say both Elliston and Francesca came and testified at a field hearing of the Senate Commerce Committee. They both demonstrated amazing courage, standing up and telling their stories and being willing to confront what happened to them and use the pain they felt, use it to help others, use it to change the law in America to protect other teenagers, other women, to ensure that maybe somebody else will not wake up with this pain and agony and victimization. Francesca, thank you for being here and welcome.
Today, I stand before you not just as an advocate for stronger AI laws, but as a proud and hopeful 16-year-old girl. Today, I can say that my voice has been heard, and more importantly, that it will make a difference for millions of students, women, children across the United States. I couldn't be happier or prouder to announce that the Senate has unanimously passed the Take It Down Act. Special thanks to all the senators who supported this critical legislation, especially Senator Booker from my home state of New Jersey, who co-sponsored the bill. But this victory would not have been possible without the unwavering dedication of Senator Cruz. He has been a true champion for our cause, never backing down despite the challenges faced this year. Senator Cruz, you are a rock star. And your team has been incredible, always just one phone call away. My deepest gratitude to you and your team for your relentless hard work. Thank you, Senator Cruz. Senator Klobuchar, Congressman Salazar, and Dean, thank you for being here and for standing with us girls as well. It means so much to have women in our corner supporting and fighting for what's right. Now, we turn to the House. Today, I'm calling on every congressman and congresswoman to stand with me, with Elliston, and with all the girls who are not here today but have been deeply affected. Because we matter. It's time for Congress to see us, hear us, and act for us. We need swift and decisive action. We need this bill to pass to protect us. Without it, we remain vulnerable. This is not a political issue. It's a human issue, and I hope we can all agree that protecting our children is something worth uniting for. Once again, thank you, Senator Cruz, you're awesome, and thank you, Congresswoman Salazar, for your support and encouragement. Dear representatives, let's finish what we've started and make this change happen. Together, we can ensure a safer and brighter future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. And I will say both Elliston and Francesca have done quite a number of media interviews. And at the end of some of the media interviews, at the end of Good Morning America, I think the host looked over and was really afraid that they're coming to take their jobs. And I think for good reason. They should be. You know, Amy mentioned that when these crimes occur, sometimes the harms are reputational, they're emotional, they're grief, they're depression. All of that is horrible and wrong. But sometimes the consequences are even graver than that. we're seeing every year young people who are taking their lives, who choose suicide because of this horrific wrong. And today we have with us Brandon Guffey. Brandon, his son Gavin, is one of those teens. Brandon likewise has demonstrated enormous courage telling Gavin's story. And thank you for taking your unimaginable pain and grief and using it to fight to change the world we live in. Brandon, welcome.
First off, I can't thank you two enough. Being, I didn't speak in front of people until I started getting involved in politics. But to see, for y'all to have that courage and to have that fight, we need more of that. It's your generation that is at risk. So thank you so much. Thank you, Senator Cruz. Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, as well. Congresswoman Salazar Dean, for your advocacy on Take It Down. My name is Brandon Guffey. I am a state house rep in South Carolina. I have a personal experience, as Senator Cruz said, with losing my son due to a crime of sextortion. I'd never heard of sextortion prior to July 27th of 2022. Actually, I didn't even learn what it was until probably August. And as I started to dive in, and my mission in life is to protect children online, I watched these cases rise and rise and rise. We watched AI came in, and these images start to be used without the kids even sending images. Unfortunately, with my son, he was contacted by someone pretending to be a girl through a platform and began messaging, and as teenagers do, they share images back and forth. My son was contacted at midnight on July 27th of 2022. He had taken his life by 1:40 a.m. That is the hurt, that is the shame, because there is no out. The threat of these images going viral is, you can't hide that amount of shame. And these kids know. They have watched 18-year-olds lose college scholarships for something that they said whenever they were 14. We've taught everybody this is going to stay with you forever. Even though that I had never heard of sextortion, that was a day that changed my life forever. If my son would have had something like Take It Down in place, then perhaps that decision would have been different. I can't do anything to bring my son back. But what I can do is try to fight to keep another teen from feeling that hurt and feeling that shame. I want to urge the House to pass this bipartisan bill. And that is the most important thing. These bills are completely bipartisan. Who doesn't want to protect our kids? We see what's before us, and we have to stand up and fight. And I also want to thank the groups and the advocacy centers that have been fighting. That's something I was unaware that stood out. You know, the National Center of Sexual Online Exploitation, or National Center of Sexual Exploitation, has been a huge advocate in trying to help me get my voice out and to help our parents and to help our survivors. And we need that because we need our representatives and our senators standing up. And once again, I want to thank all of you for really taking that fight, because it's hard to have a voice up here. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you for your courage. Thank you for standing and fighting. As Brandon mentioned, we've seen an incredibly broad and diverse coalition come behind this bill, Take It Down. We have over 90 groups that are supporting it, law enforcement groups, victim advocacy groups, human trafficking groups, sexual exploitation groups, all focused on we need to stand together, we need to protect children, we need to protect women, we need to stand up against these horrific abuses. And with that, I want to introduce Breeze Liu now to address us.
Thank you for having me here today. My name is Breeze Liu, a survivor of deepfake abuse, as well as the founder and CEO of Electo AI, a company dedicated to ending online image abuse. We gather here today in a moment of profound transformation. This is an age of massive information and misinformation, a time of both wisdom and ignorance, an era of both progress and setbacks. With extraordinary technology advancement, we also face immense challenges. In April 2020, my life changed forever. A friend called to tell me that a video of me was circulating on Pornhub. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I had never even visited Pornhub. But when I clicked the link, I saw my face on a pornographic video. The devastation I felt that day is indescribable. I was humiliated, dehumanized, and overwhelmed with shame. But when I sought help, the system failed me. I was victim blamed and slut shamed by law enforcement, while the perpetrator faced zero consequences. As more videos of me spread to hundreds of malicious websites, I nearly lost everything. My dignity, my reputation, and I almost lost my life. That is why the Take It Down Act matters. It creates accountability where there was none before. It ensures that victims can have harmful content removed swiftly, lifting the unbearable burden survivors have long carried alone. When it comes to ending online violence, America must do what it always does. America must lead. In the 1960s, this nation did something that was once believed to be impossible. We sent men to the moon with computing power equivalent to a basic calculator. Today, the smartphones in our pocket holds computing power thousands of times greater than what NASA used during the Apollo missions. If this is our moonshot, then we must rise to the challenge. The same technology that created this problem can also power its solution. The algorithms used to harm us can be redirected to protect us. This legislation is part of that moonshot. So let's pass this bill, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Stop blaming the victims and stop justifying the abuse. I call on House leadership to pass Take It Down as soon as possible. While there is darkness, we shall let there be light, and even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. So let us heal the divide and build a brighter future for the next generations. We owe it to our children, a future that is worth living in, not just simply surviving. Do not let my yesterday become their tomorrow. And to all the survivors out there listening today, you are not alone. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Breeze, thank you very much for sharing your powerful story, and thank you for your courage again to take your pain and use it as a call to action, use it as a call to protecting others. And I will say, as a Texan, I was particularly fond of your quoting JFK in Rice Stadium, which is where he announced that within a decade we will go to the moon. And the quote that Breeze did is JFK asked, "Why do we go to the moon?" And he goes, "Why does Rice play Texas? Not because it is easy, but because it is hard." And we will do this likewise, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. I would now like to recognize Samantha McCoy.
Good morning, and thank you to Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Amy Klobuchar for your tireless work to ensure that survivors are protected and heard. I am here today as a survivor who is thrilled at the passage of the Take It Down Act through the Senate, and I am also hopeful for the same process in the House. My name is Samantha McCoy, and during my junior year of college, I was physically attacked and raped by someone who swore to protect and serve the community. During the attack, the perpetrator began video recording the rape. It was only until I reported the rape and an investigation ensued that I discovered the perpetrator had disseminated the video to various sources, including social media sites and directly to people I knew. Being stalked, physically attacked, and sexually assaulted is traumatizing in and of itself. But the moment I realized that the video of the crime was circulating, a sense of pure despair and hopelessness set in. The perpetrator used the intimate imagery he took of his criminal act as a tool for further re-victimization. Taking advantage of social media platforms and other sites, he rapidly disseminated the worst moment of my life to an unknown yet vast audience. Once on the internet, all ability to prevent it from further spreading was lost. At the time, I was pursuing a career as a mental health therapist. Those dreams were immediately jeopardized when I thought of the potential of a future client or colleague coming across the video. All I could think of was everything that I had worked so hard for was all for nothing. My mental health spiraled. I stopped going to public places because I was inundated with obsessive thoughts that a person who stared at me for just a second too long must have seen the rape. I subsequently lost my job and my apartment shortly thereafter. Determined to find protection and ensure the video of the rape was not further disseminated, I sought to find out what laws existed. While many states, including Texas, where I'm from, have enacted laws to criminalize revenge porn and deepfake pornography, these laws vary vastly in the terms of classification of crime and penalty. I was shocked to find out that social media platforms were not responsible for removing intimate imagery and that I had little to no recourse against these platforms. And most shockingly, I had little to no recourse against the perpetrator himself. I eventually channeled my anger into pursuing a career as an attorney so that I could represent those who have been through similar heinous acts.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. And I did go on to complete my master's and obtain my license as a mental health therapist as well. However, I will always live with the fear that I do not have a way to stop the viewing of the worst thing that's ever happened to me. The Take It Down Act provides strong protections to victims of this horrific act by creating a new federal standard, making it a federal crime to publish non-consensual intimate imagery, and puts the responsibility on the social media companies and other websites to remove these intimate images within 48 hours of notification of the victim. Had this legislation been in place at the time of my case, I would have not experienced the constant and repeated pain, as the video of the attack would have been promptly removed, significantly reducing the chances of a wider circulation on other platforms. It would have further empowered me to feel as though I had options to protect myself and ensured that the perpetrator would be held accountable for the irreparable harm he caused. That is why I am calling on House leadership to pass the Take It Down Act immediately. We must finally prioritize protecting survivors of image-based sexual abuse by passing this legislation to shield those who are targeted and hold those who facilitate this abhorrent crime accountable. Survivors are counting on you. Our children are counting on you. My daughter, my 1-year-old daughter, is counting on you. And future generations are counting on you. Thank you.
Samantha, thank you for sharing that horrific story. And I am so sorry for the hell that you have gone through, and Breeze and Brandon and everyone here. What has happened to each of you, it's not right. And I'm hopeful that by coming together, we can put in place meaningful protections so that the next young woman, the next teenager, is not a victim of the next crime tomorrow. With that, we'll open it up to questions.
On the House side, Joe Martin, Dallas Morning News. Is there any indication that there is any resistance to this, or is it purely a matter of lots to do and little time? And have you talked to, Speaker Johnson, any other members of the leadership? There's a Texan in charge of the Rules Committee you could have a word with about getting on the suspension calendar. What are those conversations?
So there is not meaningful opposition. There is no one that we know of that is actively lobbying against this. And we worked hard to unify and bring together a broad and diverse community behind this bill. I think that's one of the reasons, as Amy said, the Senate, you've got a diverse array of views, a range of views across the Senate, and to get every senator to come together, a lot of work has been done to find a legislative solution that makes sense and that will work. Our challenge really is just the hours into the day and the calendar. We're near the end of the year. There are lots of competing priorities. I've spoken multiple times with the Speaker of the House. I've spoken with Steve Scalise, the Majority Leader. I've spoken with multiple other leaders in the House. Amy has as well, Maria has as well, and we're trying. All it needs to do is get scheduled for a vote, either on suspension or just scheduled for an ordinary vote. If this vote is on the floor of the House, this bill will pass. The only way it doesn't pass is if the House doesn't take it up and vote on it. And so it's a question of, to be honest, this press conference is about building the support so it becomes compelling. We need to get this done now, because it's always easy in a legislative environment. You've got lots of competing environments, and you say, well, we can deal with this later. You know what? We can't deal with this later, because that means we're turning a blind eye on the victims who will be victimized tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and we need to act quickly to protect them.
I just, we have all talked to people in the House. I have a call scheduled this morning, and I'm going to keep pushing it. I think that the only other possibility is if, in addition to the two Ted mentioned, is if they somehow have a smaller package of things that they add to a year-end bill, that we could somehow get it included to the bill that we're going to do at the end. It's not going to probably go on the defense bill, even though it's to me a major security risk is going on. But it will. That would be the only other possibility. So, I mean, I feel so strongly that if we got it through this place, as in this place, you can get it through anywhere. And this has happened all the time. Sometimes it's easier to get bills through the House because they can have a few people not vote for things and it doesn't matter. So I just don't like the thought, as much as we have unanimous support over here, of going through next year, and there's going to be a whole lot of hearings going on, nominations, things on the calendars, and why don't we just get this done now? And what a holiday gift it would be for those who have fought for so long to get it done.
Yes. Absolutely, and today is part of that, but we're spending a lot of time. We're spending a lot of time doing interviews, and I'll tell you, nothing is more powerful than what these courageous women and men are doing right now. I mean, every one of them, they're sharing a very personal pain that it would be easy to say, I don't want to talk about this. That was that was, as Samantha talked about, she's talking about the worst day of her life and then getting re-victimized every time someone watches the video of that horrific crime over and over again. And it takes courage. Listen, I got to tell you, I've been inspired. I've been inspired by the courage that all of you are demonstrating. And I think the single best way to raise awareness is, frankly, for the politicians to get out of the way and just let people tell real stories. Allison and I were talking last night about how, you think about human memory. Almost every memory you have is a story. That's how our brain works. We think in terms of story. A statistic, I mentioned that this is increasing 3,000%. That, for most people, doesn't move them very much. That's a number. It's abstract. It doesn't seem real. When you look in the eyes of people who felt this pain directly, you understand it differently. When Brandon talks about how his son Gavin will never be here again. Look, all of us are parents. There were more than a few of us who had tears in our eyes as we heard Brandon telling that story. The greatest nightmare for any parent is to lose a child. And I think that's one of the compelling reasons not to delay. If this will pass eventually, but if it passes a year from now, how many other victims will be victimized? How many girls will be victims? How many parents will lose a child because Congress delayed and we couldn't act? And so we're not going to let that happen. We're going to do everything we can to say, let's have the urgency that you would have if it was your child that was potentially facing this tomorrow. And so that is exactly what we're endeavoring to do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. You guys are fantastic.
Okay. Good job.
next week. Put them in suspension. It's not
easy to do if you just.
I have good friends on the floor, so I'll keep you posted. No,
I don't know if you've heard.
Okay, so